We're reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 9, and the verse for Chapter 9 is called Answers by Citing the Lord's Version, and we are on text 33 today. So, Mataji, I can hand over to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you very much, Mataji, for giving me the opportunity to serve the Srimad Bhagavatam and to serve all of you today. I pay my obeisances to all of you, and if I make any mistakes, please do correct me. It is completely by the mercy and blessings of my Guru and all of you that I'm able to serve the Bhagavatam today. So thank you very much, Mataji. So I'll start with the Mangalacharan, and then I shall read the verse. Om Jnana Timirandhyasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manupishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandyaham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavanu Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Paevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Siva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you very much, Mataji, and again, apologies if I keep sneezing. Apologies. So we are doing Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, verse 33 today. We are into the Chatushloki, and we have been doing the Chatushlokis for the past 2 days. And we have read through the first 2 paragraphs of the verse. And as the Prabhujis who have been taking the sessions in the past 2 days have mentioned, it is just impossible to even start talking about the Chatushlokis and think about, completing why just a paragraph in an hour. I mean, it's difficult to even talk about a single sentence and understand the verse and the complexity of the verse. However, despite the fact that it is complex, it is at the same time very, very simple as well. Just like sometimes we think of life to be too complex, but at the same time, life can be very, very simple as well. It's how we want to, and what do we make of life? What do we think of what our goals in life are? What do we want to do with our life? My understanding of it is that I don't have the qualifications, nor do I have the knowledge to really understand the very, very intricate depths and go into the depths of the huge meaning underneath all of the entire absolute truth. It's impossible for someone like me to even comprehend the absolute truth that was revealed to Lord Brahma by Krishna. And so in my simple mind, I would, and unqualified, um, with my unqualified abilities, I will try to share whatever simple things I have picked up or tried to pick up in the third verse of this shloka, shloka number 33. So I should read the third verse of the shloka. I read the shloka and then I'll read the third verse of the shloka. And then the first 5 minutes, I'll do a quick recap of what has led to the Chatushlokis before discussing a bit about the Chatushloki and the third verse. So I shall just read it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll just go straight into it. Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 2, verse 9. Canto 2, chapter 9, verse 33. Aham eva sam eva gre nanyat yat sat param paschadaham yad etacha yova shishyeta sosmi aham. Translation. Brahma, it is I, the personality of Godhead, who was existing before the creation when there was nothing but myself, nor was there the material nature, the cause of this creation. That which you see now is also I, the personality of Godhead, and after annihilation, what remains will also be I, the personality of Godhead. Mataji, is it possible to give me the sharing rights? Thank you very much. Can you see my screen? Okay. So we will just, I've just read the translation. That was the translation. And so I should just read, the first verse was read, the second verse was done. So I will just read the third verse. So the other feature of the statement is that the supreme truth is Bhagavan, or the personality of Godhead. The personality of Godhead and his kingdom have already been explained. The kingdom of Godhead is not void as conceived by the impersonalists. The Vaikuntha planets are full of transcendental variegatedness, including the four-handed residents of those planets, with great opulence of wealth and prosperity, and there are even airplanes and other amenities required for high-grade personalities. Therefore, the personality of Godhead exists before the creation, and he exists with all transcendental variegatedness in the Vaikuntha Lokas. The Vaikuntha Lokas, also accepted in the Bhagavad Gita as being of the Sanatan nature, are not annihilated even after the annihilation of the manifested cosmos. Those transcendental planets are of a different nature altogether, and that nature is not subjected to the rules and regulations of material creation, maintenance, or annihilation. The existence of the personality of Godhead implies the existence of the Vaikuntha Lokas, as the existence of a king implies the existence of a kingdom. So it's for us to pick up on later on that it's talking about the Vaikuntha Lokas and the Lord being the king and having his kingdom in the Vaikuntha Lokas. Now, what comes next is related to the third verse, where there are just three verses, one by Parikshit Maharaj, one by Vidura, who asked the same questions in the Bhagavatam, and one in the Skanda Purana in connection with Dhruva Charita, where the devotees of the personality of the Godhead are not annihilated during the period of the entire annihilation of the material world, not to speak of the Lord himself. The Lord is ever existent in all three stages of material change. So that is the idea of our discussion today, that the Lord lives in the Vaikuntha Loka, and the Lord is always there, always existent. Okay. Right, so if we can start with just a 5-minute recap. So we know that the 4 original verses were spoken by the Lord, the Chatushloki was spoken by the Lord to Lord Brahma. And we are told about that right at the beginning, right at the start, in the very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, where we are told that Tene Brahma Ridaya Yadi Adi Kavaya Muyanti Yatsuraya, or he's the Lord who has imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Lord Brahma. And it goes on to say that the Lord, it is only because of him there are the material universes, which are temporary and under the material nature, 3 modes of material nature. But unto him who is the Lord of this material nature, I start the Bhagavatam. Sukdev Goswami says, I start the Bhagavatam, or rather, Sutta Goswami says that, this is the commentary. I start the Bhagavatam worshipping, paying my obeisances unto that Lord Krishna, who is eternally existent, who is Satyam Param Dhimahi. And that is established in the very, very first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. And it's further elaborated by Sukdev Goswami when Parikshit Maharaj asks questions to Sukdev Goswami. And those questions, as we have seen, as we've studied, the previous chapters, they cover almost everything, about our existence and, who the Lord is, however, with a different angle. And as we go more and more into Bhagavatam, we are told more and more about the Lord and the contents of the Bhagavatam and the nature and who we are. And why are we studying the Bhagavatam, and what can we find from the Bhagavatam? So Sukdev Goswami also then cites in his conversation, as we know, that the Bhagavatam is structured like many of the other Vedic scriptures. It's structured in dialogues within dialogues within dialogues. So Sukdev Goswami cites the conversation between Narad Muni and Lord Brahma, which further gives an answer to Parikshit Maharaj as to why devotional service should be performed and how should devotional service be performed. And right now, leading on to the Chatishloki, we see Narad Muni asking various questions to Lord Brahma, telling Lord Brahma that, I understand you are the secondary creator. Tell me more about God, tell me more about, who he is, or what is this all about? Tell me about the whole truth. And we see Lord Brahma answering to Narad Muni. So in a snapshot, what Lord Brahma tells Narada, we understand that from Krishna, Krishna who is eternally in his Shamsundar form in Golok Vrindavan, he's there as the eternal enjoyer, eternal controller, but he expands into Balaram, and then from Balaram you have the original Chaturvyuha, the Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh, and then from Sankarshan we have Narayana, we have then the second Chaturvyuha, Shiva, from Narayana. And then from Sankarshan, we have the Purusha avatars again, where we have Karanadaksha Vishnu, Mahavishnu, who, when he breathes in and he breathes out, that's the innumerable number of universes created. And then when he breathes in, those universes are annihilated. And that is the creation of the universes and the destruction or annihilation. And then we understand that, you know, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, so in the Purusha avatar, in the Lord's incarnation as Garbhodaksha Vishnu, he enters each and every single universe to maintain the universe, to keep that. So Garbhodaksha Vishnu is like the soul of the universe. Otherwise, the universe wouldn't work. And from Garbhodaksha Vishnu, a lotus sprouts from the navel of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And Lord Brahma appears on that lotus and does meditation for 1,000 yugas, 1,000 celestial years of yuga. And then the Lord reveals himself to Lord Brahma, and Lord Brahma is also shown the Lord's abode. And the Vaikuntha planets, which is beyond this material realm. And all conceptions, and where the Vaikuntha planets are beyond all conceptions of material energy and time, or beyond conceptions of Maya and Kala. And that is why, you know, it is so very important to understand that the Vaikuntha planets are beyond this. And the Lord says to Lord Brahma that, you know, I'm pleased with your austerity. And he holds Lord Brahma's hand and asks Lord Brahma to ask for a benediction. And Lord Brahma asks for 3 boons, which are granted. And then to grant, when that 3 boons are granted, that is when the Lord speaks the Chatushloki, the 4 verses of absolute truth of everything. Now we may ask, why is it that the Lord spoke the Chatushlokis? Why does he speak the Chatushloki? Why not something else? He could have spoken something else. And the reason is that it is an answer to Lord Brahma's first boon. So if you understand, Lord Brahma asks or requests the Lord for 3 boons. And the Chatushloki was spoken in answer to the first boon of Lord Brahma. And does anyone remember, because I touched upon this last time, I know it was a month ago probably, but does anyone remember what was the first boon? What was the first thing that Lord Brahma asked? No? Okay, no worries. So Lord Brahma asked 3 things. The first thing he asks is, please give me the understanding, the knowledge, the intelligence, and the insight to know about you. So just self-realization, understanding who the Lord is, and not just understanding who the Lord is, but the intelligence to understand. Sometimes we don't understand God's way. If we like what God does to us, we are happy. If we don't like it, we end up blaming the Lord. We do not understand that the Lord is our eternal best friend. He is Suhrid, as we are told in the Shastras. Nobody loves us more than the Lord. So Lord Brahma asked, can you please give me the insight and the intelligence to know all about you? And when we understand what Lord Brahma says, know all about the Lord, we understand that it encapsulates everything, the material, the spiritual, everything in entire existence. And that was the first question of Lord Brahma. And this is the answer that the Lord gives to Lord Brahma in the Chatushloki. Every understanding about everything in existence. Does that make sense? So The next thing, and very quickly, the next two things that Lord Brahma asks, if you remember, the second thing that Lord Brahma asked was, please tell me, please let me be enthusiastic of the task that you have assigned to me of creating the universe, the second, and let me not be lethargic. Because he's in the, to create the to create a universe, Lord Brahma will need to be in the mode of passion. And which leads on to the third thing that Lord Brahma asks, please let me not become proud. Please let me remain humble, because pride is, from that mode of passion, it is very, very easy to slide down to a mode of ignorance and pride, because he may get very proud of being given this huge task of not choosing anybody else, but choosing him to do that task of creating the secondary universe. So these are the three things that Lord Brahma asks us being. But the Chatushloki was spoken to Lord Brahma to give him an understanding of the entire absolute truth, and then assigning him the task of creating that material, the secondary universe, everything around that, of that, and anything and everything that exists within that entire truth is asked in that first question of Lord Brahma. And that is the reason why we are being told the Chatushloki by the Lord. Now, so Brahma, now even if one is not religious, now Lord Brahma, we understand, is a great devotee. So he asked the Lord to give him the understanding of everything, and he is very religious. However, even if one is not religious, or even if one doesn't follow a particular religion, there are some basic questions that is always asked by jivas, always asked by living beings in this universe. And we go back to, ancient times, to a philosopher called Socrates. You will have heard about Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher. And he always advised people to know thyself. That was his motto. He told people to know thyself, know about yourself first before you understand everything else. And this was further developed by other philosophers, someone called Avicenna, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, much later, much later, where he says, know thyself and thou wilt know thy Lord. So you have to know yourself first, and only then will you be able to understand your Lord, your God. So we see that moral philosophers of the ethical tradition, and I stress this part, moral philosophers who belong to they have ethical traditions. So we are not talking about atheists. We are not talking about philosophers who walk in the path of adharma. We are talking about moral philosophers who are in the ethical tradition of thought. They always encourage people to know themselves for better understanding of their lives. And so what are the things that usually people would ask about? So any idea what, just as an existent, someone existing in this universe, what are the general kind of things that people would tend to ask about themselves?
Who am I? Where
Yeah.
have I come from? Where am I going? What is the purpose of my life? Why am I
Yes,
here?
sure. So you've started with saying, who am I? Or rather, who is the living entity? The jiva. Okay. And then we say, okay, so the jiva is there, but who created the jivas? Where did the jivas come from? Where did my ancestors come from? Who created them all? And who started it all? Who's the first person? And we come to the answer, God or Ishwar. So we have the jiva, we have Ishwar. And then you may ask, okay, fine. So there is me, the Jiva, there is God, there's Ishwar. Why am I here in this universe? What am I doing here? What is this universe? How would I define this universe? What are its characteristics? And then you come to the answer, okay, this universe is the material world, or Maya. So that's the third thing that we would want to ask or know about. And then once we know that, we may ask, so what should I do to perfect my existence? So what is the purpose of my life? As you just said, Mataji, why am I here? What is the purpose of my life? What is the goal that the jivas should have? So I understand I'm the jiva, there is Ishwar, okay, there is this universe, Maya, the material world. What am I doing over here? What should I do? What should I achieve? What is my goal? And the answer to that is to have a relationship with God. So we cannot just say, okay, I'm the jiva, this is Ishwar, this is the material world. We are not just, individual items just separated. We are all connected. And what is that connection? We need to have that relationship with God. How? Through sadhana, through bhakti. So the fourth thing that might come to us is that is we need to have that bhakti, or the relationship of love, not just any relationship, but that relationship of love with God. And these are the 4 questions that are answered in the Chatushloka: Jiva, Bhagavan, Maya, and sadhana, or relationship with God. Okay. Now, various acharyas have explained this in various ways. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, he writes, Bhagavatera Sambandha Abhidaya Prayojana Chatushlokite Prakatare Koriyacha Lakshana. And what does that mean? The essence of Srimad Bhagavatam, that is our relationship with the Supreme Lord. So that answer to that 4th question, our relationship with the Supreme Lord. And this first phrase automatically includes, when we say our relationships, who is our? That's a jiva and the Lord. Okay, where are we? We are all on this material world. So just this first phrase, that touches upon all the 4 points we just talked about. Yes, so our relationship with the Supreme Lord, our activities in that connection, and the goal of life, Kaviraj Goswami says, is manifest in the 4 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam known as Chatushloki. And everything is explained in those 4 verses. So Kaviraj Goswami says that the Chatushloki touches upon and explains everything through the points of Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. Now, we have heard about these 3 terms a bit before as well. Sambandha. So what is Sambandha? Relationship, yes. Relationship with whom? Relationship with Ishwar, with Krishna. And whose relationship with Krishna? The living entities, the jivas' relationship with Krishna. So what is Sambandha? Sambandha is the jiva's relationship with Krishna. That's it. That is our Sambandha. Now, once we know that, yes, we have a Sambandha with Krishna, so now we want to know, now that we know that there is this relationship with Krishna and God, so what should I do? What should I need to do some action. In chapters 2 and 3 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that the innate nature of the soul is to be always active. The soul can never, never, ever, ever be static. The soul is always active. And that is the reason we say, you know, people who want to be liberated and then just merge into the effulgence of the Brahmajyoti, there is that chance of them falling back into the material world again, because in the Brahmajyoti, the constitutional position of the soul is to actively serve the Lord. And in the Brahmajyoti, there isn't any chance to do that. And that is the reason the soul is not able to do what is its original nature. And then it falls down into the material world again. So Krishna says to Arjuna in chapters 2 and 3 that, you know, in quite a few verses here and there, that the nature of the soul is always to be active. So now that we know that we have a relationship with Krishna in that sambandha, what are we going to do about it? So the soul, which is the main identity of the jivas, they want to act. They want to act in a certain way. And when we have a relationship with someone, we want to act in a favorable way with them accordingly. And so how does the jiva establish that relationship with Krishna? By practicing bhakti, by doing devotional service, and by doing all the things that is pleasurable to Krishna, keeping Krishna, doing Krishna sansar. As Narottam Das Thakur says, Krishna sansar karo chari anachar. Do Krishna sansar and build up that relationship with Krishna. Prahlad Maharaj says you can build up that relationship through the Navada Bhakti, you know, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Archanam, Vandanam, Padasevanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atmanivedanam. And you can do it in your own way. Krishna has a unique relation with every single jiva, with every single jiva. So once we know that we have a sambandha with Krishna, the second stage is we actively, our souls actively engage in doing activities to establish that relationship. And so we ask a question, are we really establishing the relationship? And we get, as we practice devotion more and more, we are told, it is revealed to us that no, we are not establishing relationship. We are re-establishing our relationship, because that relationship with Krishna already existed, and it's an eternal relationship with Krishna. But we had forgotten that, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 15.5, I think, that, you know, I am in charge, and I am in charge of making people remember and forget. So we had forgotten that, being in, you know, in being encompassed by Maya. So through the second stage of re-establishing, rebuilding, and reconnecting with Krishna, the action, that devotional acts that we are doing, that is abhidaya. Yes, that is the second stage. That is abhidaya. And so we know sambandha. We know what we need to do to abhidaya. And so now that we know that we have a relationship with Krishna and we are performing bhakti to act in a favorable way in that relationship to make it stronger, we may ask, okay, fine, we do that, but what do we gain from it? What will this give me? Okay, what will I get? And that goal, that getting, that realization of what will I get, understanding that this is my goal, that is prayojana. That goal is prayojana. So if you ask the question, I'm doing all this task, doing all of this, what is the goal? What is the goal of my life? Why am I doing this? That goal is prayojana. And what is prayojana? What is that goal? That goal is Krishna prema, or the love of God. And that is our ultimate goal in this world, to break the cycle of birth and death in this material world, transcend this material world, and transcend, go beyond the grasp of Maya and Kala, and go back into that eternal loving relationship with the Lord in his, and live with his eternal associates in our original abode, the Vaikuntha planets, or even Golok Vrindavan. And we are told in the verse today how the Vaikuntha planets, they are beautiful. Now, if we are saying that, there is Ishwar who is in charge of everything. So if he is controlling me, if he is in charge of everything, then there must be a place where he lives. And that place, that kingdom of his, is the Vaikuntha planets, which is so beautifully mentioned in so many places in the Shastras, and also very briefly in this verse. And we'll come across this description a bit later on. But again, leading to this, so the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Chatushloki, it's this understanding of these three things. So does it make sense? It all stems from those four key questions. And then so first of all, it stems from the three things that Lord Brahma asks Krishna. And in answer to the first boon of Lord Krishna, Lord Brahma, Krishna gives the Chatushloki. And the Chatushloki has four key areas: Ishwar, Maya, Jiva, and the sadhana. And then it is explained that all of these four things can be explained through the concepts of Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. And all of that is included in these are the four things, these are the three things that really explains everything about the absolute truth. And Sri Bhagwan, Lord Krishna himself, explains that. Now I'm just going to just quickly share my screen again, just so that, because it is quite a tough one, so there's no problem in the sharing. It's just my scribbled notes. I didn't do any PowerPoint or anything. So Krishna, in this verse, in verse number 31, Krishna talks about that the four aspects of the Chatushloki: Jnanam, or which is knowledge about the absolute; Jnanam param guhyam me yad vijnana samanvitam. What is yad vijnanam? Vijnana is realized knowledge, or the science of spiritualization. Realized knowledge, what you realize, that science of spiritual knowledge is science of the jiva, of Ishvara, of this material world, of Kala, of Maya. Then he says, Sharahasyam, which is secrets; Tad Angam, it's the necessary paraphernalia for the process of devotional service, all that is required for sadhana. Grihana Gaditam Maya. So Krishna himself gives the answer. He says that, okay, for the Chatushloki, you need to understand, Brahma, that there are four aspects to this. So you see how many steps there are? So the 3, and then 4, and then 3, and then we come to this 4 again. Yes, so the Lord himself says that there are 4 aspects to the Chatushloki: Jnana, Vijnana, Sarahasyam, and Tad Angam. So he's breaking down that concept of Sambandha, Abhidaya, and Prayojana. That is Sambandha, Prayojana, and Abhidaya. That is broken down again into the 4 concepts. Yes? And many acharyas have, and many exalted devotees, they have commented on these verses. Many, and none of them are wrong. They all have their own realizations, and we understand that whichever way the Shastras are read, they are the right, because they are being commented on by realized souls. Okay, so the main ones, some of the famous ones are, say, by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Sarata Darshini Tika. And his realizations are very similar to Prabhupada's realizations, as we see in the purports of Prabhupada. We also see Jiva Goswami, who has given in his Bhagavat Sandarbha 2.9.31, his realization, where he talks about Jnanam and Vijnanam a lot, and, you know, the secrets and all these four things, different realizations, but coming to the same ultimate realization. And we also see Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, who has also given us the meanings of the Chatushloki in his Chaitanya Charitamrita in Madhya Lila 1.3 and 1.4. But let's look into the first one, because we are reading Prabhupada's realizations in his purport, which is very, very similar to that of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Sarata Darshini Tika. And can you see this? Can you see the table? So Prabhupada says that, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that the first verse, 33, talks about God. Who am I? The Swarupa, the God. The second verse talks about Maya. The third verse talks about the Bhakta, or the Jiva, answering the question, who am I? And the fourth verse talks about sadhana and the relationship with God. So can you see the answers to all the questions that we asked before? The answer to all those questions covered in these four verses? Who's God? Who am I? What is my relationship with God? And, you know, what should I do? And so the first two, in terms of tattva or philosophy, the first two verses are very much based on knowing God, and knowing Maya, or Sambandha, or that relationship. Who am I? Who is God? What is my relationship with God? What is my relationship with Maya? That's the first two verses. 35 is Abhidheya, the Bhakta. What should the Bhakta do? That sadhana bhakti, the devotional service that the Bhakta should do. And the last verse talks about, you know, the last verse talks about sadhana and prayojana, or, you know, what is the ultimate goal? Doing sadhana, how can I reach that ultimate goal of Krishna prema, or love of Godhead? Yes? So that is what the Prabhupada's purports would tell us. Now, the first verse, Krishna talks about himself, the Swarupa. Okay, that is the verse we read again today. And you would see that Krishna talks about himself, and he talks about aham. I have actually emboldened the word aham, because Krishna says aham 3 times. Aham eva sam eva gre, you know, in the past. So I existed before creation. So, you know, Krishna is telling Brahma, in the first line of this verse, I existed before creation, which we have read in the first 2 paragraphs as well. And so you ask that, okay, fine. So Krishna, you existed before creation. So does that mean that you were, you are universe, or you are Brahman? And Krishna says, no, no, no. I am beyond universe. You know, I'm not even in touch with the universe. Universe is Maya. So are you Brahman? No, no, no. I'm not even Brahman. I'm the source of the Brahman, Krishna says. I'm the source, but I'm not Brahman. I'm above that. And he talks about these 3 conceptions of Brahman realization, Paramatma realization, and Bhagavan realization. And so then Krishna says that I'm beyond Brahma. And then Krishna says, Paschat aham yad etacha. I continued to exist after creation. That means, Brahma, you have asked you to create, there is creation in the spiritual world. You will create the universe. I will still remain. I was there before creation, and I'm still here in the present. Even I will continue to exist even after everything is created. Okay. And so then you say, and then, we may ask, okay, so that fine, you will continue to exist. What happens when the universes are annihilated? They are destructed. And Krishna says, Yo vashisyeta sosmi aham. I will continue even after the annihilation. That's the future. I am there in the past. I am here now in the present, and I will continue to be in the future. I will remain eternally, even after the destruction of the universe. And that is the first verse that where Krishna is saying, aham. He's talking about his Swarupa, the God, aham, I. And we see that Krishna is very, very emphatic about, establishing that. Very, very emphatic. He's saying that his position is not something that is interchangeable. It cannot be taken by anybody else. Whereas we see in the position of the demigods, we know, we've seen in the references in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, excuse me, one sec. Krishna talks about the sun god called Vivashvan. So we understand that, the demigods, they are positions, they are designations. But that's not with Krishna. The position of Krishna is unique. It is not interchangeable. It is not, somewhere where a God can be elected. God is one. God was always one. God was never, he's eternal. He is unborn. He's always going to be there. You may call God, other religions might call God by a different name, but there is only one God. And Krishna says, aham, I, to emphasize the uniqueness of his position and him being the source of everything in creation, in the spiritual and in the material world. So there is absolutely no doubt. There is absolutely, so he is telling Brahma in this verse that Brahma, there should be absolutely zero questions about who am I and my superiority, me being in charge of everything, because I am the source of everything. And very, very quickly, we've seen that in the first two paragraphs, we see how Prabhupada explains and refutes the Brahman understanding of Krishna, the Mayavadi or the impersonalist understanding of Krishna. And we understand why, because over the ages, the Vedic scriptures were interpreted in very, very subjective ways, leading to misguidance, leading to misconception and misinformation. And that led to two things. That led to the instructions becoming inaccessible to common people, meaning the instructions did not come down to common people. Now we understand that the Vedic injunctions, this is Sanatan Dharma we are talking about. Sanatan is eternal. It is not for one particular culture, sect, tradition, or group of people or country. This is for everybody. But when we see now, this information is not accessible to a whole large part of the people. Only very few people actually have access to this. And this is because there were so many misinterpretation of instructions as it came down through the lines, through the ages. And, we see people misusing them in so many ways. Common people didn't relate to it. And it led to either complete atheism, or it led to, impersonalism, or it was even abused in many cases, as we see in the sati system, in the caste system, it was abused. And we see how the Lord had to take various incarnations, whereas either as Lord Buddha, to stop an excess of animal killing and to move people away from the Vedic teachings, just to be able to bring people together. And then, as Prabhuji was explaining the other day, there was Shankaracharya who brought things back a bit. He himself was a great devotee, although his teachings did teach more about the impersonal realization of the Lord. But he is a partial incarnation, as we know, of Lord Shiva, and a great devotee himself. And then through the ages, it came down, we know Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, the Mahaprabhu, the Goswamis, and then, through Srila Prabhupada, it has come down. And we understand that there are two main disciplic lines as to how this information has come down. So when we understand Lord Krishna giving this information to Lord Brahma, he's talking to all of us. And we understand that we must respect both these disciplic lines. So we have two main ways of information coming down. One is through the genealogical line, where information comes down from parents to children, family to family, through the genealogical line. We see, Arjuna, the Pandavas giving, and then Parikshit Maharaj, or, other great kings and their sons, and things coming down in the genealogical way. And the other disciplic line is the Guru Parampara, the Guru and the disciple, Guru Shishya Parampara, the disciplic succession. Now, the genealogical line, that has almost become non-existent nowadays, because information has become, information has not really been passed down properly in the family way, in the family line. But information has been able to, is very, very strong in the Guru Shishya Parampara, and we still see that is going strong. I was listening to a class by, and I know we've only got 5 minutes, so I'll rush. I was listening to a class by Keshav Maharaj where he was talking about, why people are so very, why they do not want to accept information. So if you talk to them about the Vaikuntha planets and aeroplanes flying, as we would see to them, in the verse today, there are airplanes flying. They wouldn't want to really understand that during the times of Ramayana, Lord Ram flew in the Pushpakrat, which used to be, driven by the thoughts, by the mind. Whatever the mind wanted, the Pushpakrat would do that. It expanded. The entire Vanar army could be fitted into that Pushpakrat, and they all flew to Ayodhya from Lanka in that Pushpakrat. They wouldn't really want to accept that the Vaikuntha planets are full of transcendental variegatedness, and they have, other entities who all have 4 hands, like the verse is saying. They all look like Narayana. They all look like, and they all have, they all have 4 hands. It's full of opulence, full of wealth, full of prosperity. And it is beautiful, as even Lord Brahma mentioned a few verses ago. And Maharaj was saying that people do not want to accept this because of this information not coming down to them properly. And he classified them into 3 categories. He said there are a certain type of people who who thinks Krishna to be the jiva, who says, I am here and Krishna's there, and they put themselves as the same as Krishna. They are complete atheists. They think, there is no God. I'm in control. I'm the doer. I can dictate things. There is the other group, the second group, who think themselves to be as great as Krishna, so much so that they can merge into Krishna's effulgence, or like the Mayavadis. They think if they are liberated, if they get qualified, they can become as great as Krishna. That's the second group. And the third group is that where they know the difference between between Krishna and the Jiva, but in practice, they still think of themselves to be the proprietor, the doer, and the enjoyer. So they know it in their head, but in practice, they're unable to do that. So all of these things are faulty, because Krishna is establishing here in this verse that nobody is like me. It is I'm very unique, and it is me who is maintaining everything. From me comes everything. Whether it is so, go aside, leave aside the impersonalist theory. You have to believe that, it is me, and I live in that Vaikuntha. I have those Vaikuntha planets. That is as true as me. I mean, 95% of Vedic information is lost now. But even with that 5% of Vedic information, we still have today, people are going to space. People are flying into space. We have medical advancement in all different fields, medicine and all other different fields, which are beyond imagination. And that is just with 5% of Vedic information remaining. So people do not understand what Krishna is, and Krishna is trying to establish that in this verse, that he has given the jivas the free will to choose the right and the wrong actions to do, but the controller and the sanctioner of even the smallest of actions is him. The controller of everything, the whole of creation is him. And so, in Bhagavad Gita 4.5, Krishna tells Arjuna that, many, many births, Arjuna, both you and I have passed. I can remember all of them, but you cannot. And he ends the verse very, very, he in a very Krishna-like way. He says, "Oh, subduer of enemy," he calls Arjuna. Why does he do that? He says, many, many, you have taken birth many, many times. I have incarnated many, many times. Krishna appears. He appears out of his own will. But Arjuna has come into this universe many times as a jiva and gone through that cycle of birth and death. But Krishna has been there always, eternal. And so he says, I remember everything. But Arjuna, you have forgotten everything because your remembrance is limited to only this life. And he ends it with calling Arjuna, "O subduer of enemy," trying to glorify Arjuna, saying that, "Oh, Arjuna, you're such a great and powerful warrior, but even you cannot remember your births." So just to signify, just to highlight the fact that even the greatest of people cannot really meet or match God. God is unique. He is everything. He is in control. And that is also what he's saying in this first verse when he's trying to establish who God is. So the first two verses of the Chatushlaki talks about the Lord, and the first verse especially talks about the Lord, where the first two paragraphs talks about why he's very, very personal, and and he Prabhupada refutes the impersonalist theory. Krishna tells that, I have been here in the past, I am here in the present, I will be there in the future as well. And in the third paragraph, Prabhupada gives examples of the Vaikuntha planets as well, which Lord Brahma has touched upon previously as well. And Krishna, being the Lord, it is just as real as Krishna is, his kingdom is just as real, the beautiful Vaikuntha planets. And I finished today with so I started with Lord Brahma. I'll finish today with what Lord Brahma says in the Brahma Samhita 5.33. He says, he talks about Krishna being Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, Anantarupam. Advaitam, he's absolute. His body and soul is the same. Krishna is absolute. He's Achyutam, infallible. He's Anadim, without beginning. And his Ananta Rupam, he can come in various incarnations, whenever, wherever he wants. It's like the waves of the sea, as we know. He's the Adyam Purana Purusham. He's the oldest of the people, but he's Nava Yovanam Cha. He's always looks very young. He's always in the spiritual in the spiritual world. Krishna always looks like 15 years and a few months, and Radharani always looks like 14 years and a few months. So that is their eternal age. And so we see when they incarnate in the material world, just to show people that they are like, ordinary human beings, they appear as little babies and they grow up, but they grow up, and when they reach their youth, that's where they remain static. Krishna was about 90 years old, I think, during Kurukshetra war, but he looked like a 20-year-old. And that is the reason. So Lord Brahma says that he's always there. He's the cause of all causes. He's Sarva Karana Karanam, Ishvara Parama Krishna, Sachidananda Vigraha, Anadi Radim Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. And he's the oldest, but he also is the young. And he's Advaitam, Achyutam, Anadim, and Anantarupam. So that is what Lord Brahma says in Brahma Samhita as well. So as we read through this first verse, and as I said, it's only a tiny bit of trying to delve into this verse. There's just so much to talk about, but one thing which I would again draw attention to is that, only because we've also had Radhashtami gone by recently. When we talk about the absolute conception of God, we have to really understand, although we are talking about Krishna, we have to understand that Krishna is the Shaktiman and Radharani is the Shakti, and neither can exist without each other. The Shaktiman cannot work without his Shakti. He needs Krishna, needs his energies. Every single thing that he does in the universe, he does it through his Shakti. And the Adi Shakti is Radharani. And so when you see Krishna in his incarnations, you would never ever find, you would always find his Shakti in some form coming to him, whether it's in the form of Radharani or Mother Sita or, Gadadhar Pandit in the Chaitanya Leela or in some other form. But Krishna comes Krishna does everything with his Shakti, and Krishna and Radharani, the Shakti and Shaktiman, together, they make up the absolute truth, the absolute understanding of the Lord, of that Aham. And so with that, I stop here today. Please forgive me for any mistakes that I have made. And if there's anything to add, anything to reflect, please do. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much for today's session. And you enlightened us and reminded us about all the questions that Brahmaji asked. And the answers are, we are now getting the gist of the answers. Because of time, Mataji, I haven't been able to ask other speakers, but I know we have exhausted our time. But I just needed some clarification of some words.
Yeah.
Who are the Nityas and who are the Chetanas? Would you know that?
Mataji, I will have to find that out.
Okay. And then you mentioned the paraphernalia. What is the paraphernalia?
So that's the different ways of doing sadhana. What is required to be able to do sadhana? It could be, it could be through chanting or remembering the Lord. It could be, offering prasadam. It could be doing some kind of service. So the ways in which to do sadhana
is paraphernalia. Okay. And the word avyakta, does it mean something that vyakta means to express? Avyakta means?
So avyakta, I think I'm just going back to the going back to the verse. Is that in the verse yesterday, the paragraph yesterday?
The second last line of the paragraph yesterday.
Okay.
Vyakta means to express. So avyakta means probably something
Not
that cannot.
expressed, yes. Sorry, Mataji, my Sanskrit is so bad. So I think I have an understanding, but I would want to check before I say anything, Mataji, because it's
Okay.
Sanskrit. Sorry
Okay.
about that, Mataji.
Not a problem, not a problem. Okay. So
Sorry.
thank you very much. I know we have exhausted our time, but we had a wonderful session. Thank you so much for taking us to Vaikunta. We now know actually whatever we imagine is already present, and that's why we can imagine. So thank you for
Thank you,
further
Mataji.
interpreting that.
Thank you for
And
the opportunity.
I think
Sorry, Mataji.
Pramila Mataji's mic is on. Maybe she has a question or a comment, Mataji.
Yes, I have both. Thank you, Mataji. I wanted to say how that was so beautifully explained, so simple and easy to follow, and it was really useful to me. But can you please remind me when you said the reason for Krishna, although he was 90 years on the battlefield, why he still appeared young? You gave the reason, but I missed it.
Yes, Mataji. So Krishna in his eternal form is always a youth, Kaishor. That is what the Shastras say, that he's always a Kaishor in his eternal form. In Golok Vrindavan, he is always 15 and some years and some months, and Radharani's 14 years and some months. So when he appears in the material world, he has to appear as, when he took birth, or rather when he appeared in that prison with Devaki and Vasudeva, he appeared in his four-handed form, and they prayed that, please, come as a normal child, and then he turned into a two-handed. So he has to appear as a baby form because he took birth in, or rather he appeared in the human race. So from that baby form, he grows up. However, he grows up only up to how much he can grow up as he is in his eternal form. So he grows up only until he reaches the youth. And even though in human years, the numbers add up, because Krishna is beyond Kala, beyond time, Krishna is time, so he is above time. So Kala doesn't affect Krishna. So he always remains as youth despite his human years increasing in number. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji. So Mataji, I am going to find out the meanings. Nitya is every day, I know, but I'm going to try and find out the meanings again, so that I can send text it to you, because I didn't I have to read those verses again properly. I don't want to answer in random just in case, because it's such an important verse. So I will text you the meanings of Nitya and Avyakta.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Mataji. Thank you.
Okay, I think we can conclude the session today. Let us chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in glorification of Panchali Mataji. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama
Rama
Hare
Rama, Hare Hare.
वाञ्छकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। Her Grace Panchali Mataji की जय।
Jai.
श्रीमद् भागवतम ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय।
Jai.
Thank you all for joining me.
Mataji,
Hare
thank you
Krishna.
for giving me the opportunity to serve Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you
Hare
all of you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.